Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your Commander-in-Chief here in Abbotsford, BC. And our first goal for your leader to be here in Abbotsford, my first goal is to remove the Abbotsford police. I don't want to hear the great investigators' story and their shit and their garbage. The manipulation, the fraud, the organized crime was too much in the Abbotsford police, propped up by elite officials in the back, Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung. It explains itself as you could see them all scattered and fleeing. Henry Braun was the mastermind and the ringleader of an establishment mob that was put together unbelievable. The protection that he paid through the Abbotsford police to cover up his organized crime, his hit and run, so he didn't face jail or charges or talk to witnesses, but not only that, his manipulation through the election using Greg Toast to block a democracy and everything else that took place. The Abbotsford Task Force threatening me through the election, the false things. This was ordered by Henry Braun. I knew when I went to the RCMP what Darren Braun said, that Henry Braun is the mastermind, the glue, you might say. Take him down and everybody falls, everybody scatters. I never once lost the drive to go off of Henry Braun, no matter what. I know it's politicians' duties when you swear to uphold and look after your residents, but when an unjust like this is so bad, Pierre Poilievre even knew he had to kick Ed Fast out. We cannot allow Henry Braun to escape without going before the courts because it puts too much out there for people now to take the law in their own hands, knowing that the police are being rent from the backgrounds and it's no longer the courts and the justice or the law having its say. It's individuals in the back. And I made a video today earlier showing you that if you have the maintenance person doing surgery in the hospital, it's murder. You have the Abbotsford police running the whole procedure, not going to courts and doing their legwork, and as investigators and elite investigators that have a sworn duty. But they're going to use their company for leniency, tell you how great they are about this community and building bonds with this community, building strength with this community. We got leading programs with this community. We're going after gangs in this community. We busted crimes and we're telling you about this community. We're stealing. They were committing tremendous, heinous, filthy acts without leadership, and they got to be gutted from the top down. What Donna Macy and Mike Sir did is no bloody excuse to any, and it disgraces law enforcement everywhere. But Abbotsford and myself owe the Mission RCMP a tremendous thanks. That way we could go around the Abbotsford police for its evidence. They knew when Henry Braun was using Greg Toast to block me in the election, they knew they were loading for Ross. And what was it about? What was it for? This, money. The official community plan that enriched Nate Henry and his friends, Devin Roy of Pacific Peak Homes and everybody. It led to organized crime. How many of our officers were having great funerals and named that they died in the line of duty, but were doing Henry's shit dirty work? I tell you, quite a few. You don't want to ever think of the other way that you would have to go to protect your freedom and not be framed and charged, but it's there. And I believe a lot of people took it when they're against the wall. Abbotsford and myself owe the Mission RCMP a tremendous thanks, as from one human being to another human being, as officers, and knowing that we must fight for our democratic rights, and but above all, the law. You saw the video of Colin Watts packing his shit and figures taking pictures with the Chamber of Commerce that's got itself buried. Patricia Dreesen that stole from Archway Community Services, inflating it and raising money off the backs of these farmers. Today I want to speak to you about the most important thing, our farmers. I showed you the Dike Committee and the Ditch Committee. Henry was collapsing. Why did Henry do it? Darren Braun showed me. He was collapsing that all to increase the city's budget and hold it so he could put it where he wanted. And you could see that. Ross hasn't come out with the city monthly reports of what the city's doing with its money every 3-4 months with Peter Sparanese, because that way you could take the money and you could design it into yours and not show that it's going to the fire department, how much we spent here, much there. You basically can hide it and steal it. As mayor, we have to go after the illegal acts that caused this on residents. The Mackenzie bog, I showed you, people got deadly sick. They're entitled to some compensation, if not criminal charges against the people that were in charge. Remember Dave Sadu? I got a video of him. I want you to hold me accountable. He swore an oath. These people got really deadly sick. he turned his back and ran away because it was with what he was doing with Ross Siemens. I showed you the Polygon site. I showed you the Cooper's farm, that the 3,000 people was skyjacked because Henry knew they didn't have enough money to take it to court. But I showed you the farmers. Then there's no guarantee in this that Henry's a church-going, Bible-thumping little weasel, and he uses that to get, oh, I got to go get a votes. Remember that in his church he passed away the things, our boy's weak, but he's still our boy. We need him in. We're going to stop that from going into the church and not let pastors be playing in politics. Let them be playing with God and doing what they need to do to save people. And we're going to put a stop to that. We're going to put a crush to that because that is where the establishment was getting its strength to get elected. And we're going to put a stop to it. We're going to make sure that churches don't get involved and they don't do that. And we're going to hold that up. So there is no guarantee another atmosphere river can hit us tomorrow. But when you're not getting off your ass and doing something about it, and you got a break in and your windows are not boarded up, the grizzly bear's coming in again, or the coyotes coming in, or the foxes coming in, or Henry Brown's going to be there to empty your safe. So you got to take action. I told you I was going to help my farmers, and I'm going to speak clearly today. They asked me what would be my plan for as mayor. The first thing I told you is we're going to get these farmers economic drivers, and we're going to get you up, and we're going to get you rock and rolling, and we're going to give you strength. We're going to allow you to create processing plants here, cold storage that processes your berries here, maybe small bakeries. I showed you what was happening on Manny's Farms, that illegal site that was tied to the establishment in the name of Halloween, all on ag land, and it was okay because it was Henry's and Ross and Dave Sidhu's friends, and there was no infractions by Magna. But above all, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. Henry said, when I get political, I get mean, and he packed his bags and he fled. He don't even stand here and speak about the second flood. He's so bloody scared. I'm going to create here in Abbotsford a processing plant for Abbotsford dairy farmers to process the milk to get it in, controlled by them and controlled by them alone, to get it into the United States to market. I know, watching the global thing down in the political world down in the United States, and you could see also, never mind the political hurt that Donald Trump's doing to other people and stuff like that, and they're crying, you know, Donald Trump's squeezing us. There's great potential there and great chance to take growth and help yourself and help your community and move. Donald Trump will want his milk to come to Canada and a part of this money here. So he wants his sales to come here, 8 or 9%, and we want to drive ours there. By creating a processing plant here for farmers to get up for their financial gain here after that, and most of that money will go to recover their costs and their damages here, and it'll be an economic driver, and we'll bypass the quota, basically jamming the quota system left, right, and center. And I wouldn't have to worry too much because the heat from Donald Trump on Carney would say, yeah, there's a potential now. The Sumas farmers are very much hurting. Mr. Pelican's right. They need a processing plant. They want a part of our market, and we want a part of their market, probably 8, 9%, and we want to open it up. That'll give it the leverage for our farmers. But I also want to emphasize the hurt the farmers had when Henry was dismantling the Dike Committee. And I want to touch on something else. I've been busy for this week. You see when people are raped and harmed, and you got victims and you got counseling and everything. The grief that Abbotsford farmers, not the first flood, the second flood they had to go through. The shit that they went through and the stories I've heard is just shocking. So when you hear a story that's shocking, there's no if, buts, or maybe, it's true. The ransacking and the abuse shit, it was panic, by Ross Siemens and the Abbotsford police, coming in and telling the farmers to get out now and everything else, screaming and yelling and not giving them a notice or keeping them up. He was shitting his drawers, basically, because after what Henry did, and he knew he was going to get punished by God, so he didn't know what to do. And the brutal attack by the Abbotsford police in the city was uncalled for. And then farmers went through emotional stress and damage, and we need to fix that. We need to guide that. That is why I want to instate the Dike Committee, and we need to make sure that don't telling the farmers to get up and leave immediately. This should have never took place on our farmers. And we, as mayor, we have to look at what are we going to compensate? How is the city going to compensate? I'm telling you what happened in the first one, and I'll tell you what happened in the second one. First of all, let's talk about the infrastructure, what we'll do. When your house is in the way of a major infrastructure for the federal or provincial government, it's expropriated and it's taken, and it's built there, that little piece of property you need for the hospital to have an x-ray machine, and it's taken and it's given there. You're given probably equal fair dollar, and you don't want to sell because it's something that you grew up in. But you're given pretty much fair dollar by the courts. And that's what's done. Under this flood, I'm going to tell Henry Braun, and I want you to listen, Henry. I want you to tell Jakes. I want you to tell all your friends in this industry, because I learned this from Lafarge. We're going to expropriate the gravel pits in the name of the flood. And we're going to use that to build them dikes up, and we're going to make sure Kearney's aware of that. And we're going to make sure that there's no sales going off them gravel pits, because under expropriation for that, we're going to use that. And we're going to use that to help our farmers. And we're going to get that resource for bloody free. And that's what we're going to do. And that's what the leader, shitbox Ross Siemens, should be doing, but he can't. He's with Brad Viss about that infrastructure because it's gravel sales, and I showed you what Jake's contracting did at Barreltown, what drove David Eby in here and said, "You've been spending my money." Oh, don't worry, Ross Siemens, I want to be proud. We got our legal police building up, what we frauded for 81 million cost overruns, and we built 2 losing pumps. Couldn't be here with the farmers, don't know where to go. But the story of it all, is Henry Brown was supposed to be some kind of shit-kicking, manipulating farmer. A man that's supposed to stand with the farmers can't come out and do it. He was a manipulating, using that city to enrich and aid him and his friends, and he got caught and his own son told. So that's what we're going to do. And then the second thing we're going to do as mayor and as city and as a community, because it wasn't just the farmers that were flooded, but mostly the farmers. We're going to look at the criminal negligence caused by the elective duty officials, councils and mayor that failed to do that, and the reports that were supposed to be sent to the provincial and federal government to do this for the farmers. And then we're going to look at suing you and holding you criminally liable and going after your assets, because they got to be compensated. You are elected to make sure that this didn't happen. You were elected to clean the ditches. You were elected, like Bruce Bamman said, he allocated that money to fix the pumps. And Henry was like, "Bruce is probably giving it to one of his friends, so cancel the contract and we'll take it." And Bruce was being legit that it needed to be fixed and they needed to be services, the ditches, and this is what the city's resources were supposed to go to, and they weren't. They were going to Ron Funk. So it needs somebody to come on board for our community, our farmers, our infrastructure, and not only that, to bring economic drivers in here. And these are the things we're going to do. We're going to create a processing plant, and we're going to allow this milk to hit the Americans, and the Americans then will want equal, and that will balance out the fight that we have in Ottawa. That'll push Kearney to say, yeah, we're going to open them markets, because we'll get the big man down in the United States, Donald Trump, driving it. Because these farmers, hundreds and hundreds of farmers, were devastated, and they were being manipulated and used and not looked after. Tremendous people. You can walk in any farmer's yard at any time, knowing them or not, when you got a flat tire, and they'll be there to help you. They're just tremendous people. They're a different breed of society altogether. They're tremendous people. And you have to, as mayor and leader, you have to speak up and you have to help them. And we need leaders that can do this. We need people that can come out and hit the ground running and lay it down like there's been no other, and say we're going to stop all the infrastructure, the illegal community official plan, and the stealing, and we're going to protect our food and agriculture sustainability like no other. And we're going to look after these farmers. We're going to get drone pictures and satellite pictures of everything we're going to do, and we're going to fix them dikes, and we're going to take care of them. We're not going to bullshit around and try to get gravel sales in the infrastructure, and then we're going to get independent contractors on the infrastructure that needs to be done. I'm going to emphasize to David Eby, because Pam's trying to make a run back. She's probably going to get some contracts for Josh Gallardi and Orion Construction and maybe Jake's. We're not. We're going to send them jobs to tendering. We're going to emphasize that the federal government expropriates them bloody gravel pits that's caused this fight and this anguish and this bloodshed through Abbotsford, and build that infrastructure to protect our farmers and residents. But I'm adamant. becoming commander-in-chief and going after the Abbotsford police and removing it, bringing the RCMP in, so this fight would never take place. And guys like Council Mogel would never have been attacked. Mo said it the best. Where there was smoke, there was fire. Knowing Henry had his son in front of him, knowing Henry had Ed, knowing Henry had Mike, knowing Henry was setting up an elite establishment, and the only thing that needed to be changed was Henry Brown needed to adopt the name that he always deserved, Adolf Hitler. I'm live. Abbotsford Flats, Abbotsford, British Columbia.